What's going on, everybody? It's Colton from the Chalkboard. I got a first-time interview here with Tim. TJ is what he normally goes by, and what we're gonna do is talk about. He's got an EP coming up soon. What can you tell us about? What's the name of the album?
Well, it's self-titled. We're called Tiny Castles. So we were originally gonna call it Disjointed because it was gonna be just put together with all sorts of random recordings we were doing, but eventually it started to come together cohesively, so we wanted to self-title that one.
Okay. All right, and then have you released any solos or singles or anything like that out?
Yeah, there's a song called Somewhere on Spotify. It's also on YouTube. That's pretty much the single right now, but it's we also released a song called Love is Motion that's going to be on the EP. And we released it kind of before it was done, just because we wanted to put it out there and see how people, liked it. And we didn't really know if it was going to be on the album officially, and it ended up turning out great. So we redid it. We did the vocals better, and the new version, the one that's going to be on the album, sounds better, but there is a version of it on YouTube right now.
Okay. And so you've been playing music for a long time. We're cousins. I've known him for my whole life, and we actually grew up in the same neighborhood. And I remember walking into TJ's bedroom, and it was guitars and instruments, and that's been going on since how old now?
Well, I got guitars probably starting at like 12 or something. I got one at a garage sale. I got some for Christmas. Eventually, I asked for a bass guitar for my birthday, and I got that. And I've had that since I was 13, and I still use it almost every day. And in fact, Devin, our bassist, was using it on stage during the last few shows we did. So, I collected a lot of that stuff throughout like my teenage years, and I had a lot up until maybe a few years ago when I moved, and I sold a few, and you know how things just kind of get lost and broken and moving. That kind of happens. So, but it all started, I'd say, with having a piano around as a kid. We stayed with my grandma a little bit, and she had a piano, and I just messed around with that thing a lot, and eventually I was able to just kind of start matching sounds, and I started playing, and they started taking me doing music seriously eventually, because I would really talk about wanting to be in a band or just being on stage. And we got a drum set for Christmas one year, and I literally played hours and hours worth of like 80s hits, because we had an 80s hit CD, and like the Grateful Dead and all that, AC/DC, which was easy to keep time to, so that was good.
So that's like that's the one instrument I know how to play, is the drums. And that was like one of the first things I learned was AC/DC. Is the beat is almost universal throughout that whole era
it's
of
simple,
rock and roll.
It's easy, but it's also powerful. It's what my dad would call in the pocket. That's what he always says. It's like you want to be tighter in the pocket. And that's why he liked the Rolling Stones. He showed me a lot of like that. Charlie Watts, I think his name is. And he actually keeps beat, like he doesn't hit the hi-hat at the same time as the snare, so it sounds simple, but he's got his own little technique. And he was always saying like it's tight and in the pocket, it doesn't need to be flashy. And that's really the kind of music that I learned how to keep time to. And eventually I was really into like Rush and The Who, and Neil Peart and Keith Moon were my favorites, and they're crazy on the drums, and I would just go nuts trying to figure out how to do some of those fills. But kind of my style on drums was like Keith Moon. I wasn't as good, but like I would go crazy. A lot of it was like fill based and stuff, because I liked a lot of Green Day back in those days, and their drums were a lot of fills, and I just wanted to be like that. And then Neil Peart was like very precise, and he did all these crazy things that you don't think would work, but they do. And so forever, man. I've had instruments for quite a while.
Okay. And who would you say inspired? Like, what was the inspirations growing up that was like, man, that's what I want. I want to play rock and roll. I want to be on stage and be a stage presence.
Absolutely. The undeniable, undoubtable one is definitely Meatloaf.
Okay.
had experiences with music a little bit before that, mostly with like Elvis or the Eagles, Billy Joel. But when I saw Meatloaf, I was just like so captivated, and I don't know what happened, but I wanted to do that. You know what I mean? It was like I just saw the way that he performed, and it just, this energy behind it that just made you feel just, I can't even describe it really. So that's really the first time that I had that feeling. Growing up, you know, my dad was really into music, so he had a lot of like concerts playing. Like he had the Iron Maiden concerts, and I used to love watching those because they were very theatrical. It was like watching a movie almost. You'd put it on and it had the credits, and it was really able to capture like the live excitement of that concert, and that to me was something I was just always drawn toward when I saw it. You know, it just made sense to me that I wanted to do that. And there's a part of it that's like that. There's another part that's just wanting to create, you know, wanting to use music as like an outlet to express yourself in ways that you can't in other parts of life. Like, you know, I've always had great visuals in my mind that I thought would be great paintings and you know, things like that, but I was never able to execute it. I was always interested in it, and I appreciate the art, and I think people that do it have amazing ability and skill. I would have loved to have learned how to be able to like draw and paint and all that stuff, but music's really kind of just the realm I was able to express myself in a way that was satisfying.
Okay. All right. Well, that, you know, so fathers, they're always big inspirations growing up. That's huge. I was actually going to ask, you know, which family member was huge into music that helped get you into it. And just talking to you through there, you mentioned your dad several times.
Yeah.
So, it's growing up, you had a lot of, you know, you practiced a lot, you did a lot. When did you actually like come into your first band? Like, how did that all fall into place to where TJ started to feel, okay, I'm starting to get other people playing with me, I'm writing music, you know, and then shit started happening. How was that all taking place?
Well, I would say originally it was in like 7th or 8th grade, because I was doing intermediate band. I wanted to learn how to play the drums, but there were no drum spots available. So I became friends with a guy in there named Tyler, and he really wanted to play music in a band, and so did I. I had really fantasized about it at that point, and when I found out he wanted to do it, we started trying to make that happen. It was very clunky in the beginning because it was like, you know, I played drums and he played guitar, which should have been reversed because he actually ended up pursuing drums, and even though I'm not like a guitarist, I can play guitar, and that's more of my strong suit now over drums, I would say. So that's really like the first start into a band, or like the idea of a band, and I kind of always had something like that going on throughout school and like my childhood and teen years. My friend from across the street also wanted to be in a band, so we got together often and we would play music together. And it wasn't until probably I was a sophomore in high school when we did our first show, like our first real show, where we played at Portage High School, just as like an open mic thing, and it was awesome. And the crowd liked it, and it, you know, I don't know how it looked, like if you look back now, I don't know how it would have been, but it's like at the time it felt great and people liked it, so that gave us like that confidence to keep going. And eventually it became more serious. Like I started really doing music all the time. After I probably was doing it more than I was other things I should have been doing, and
like schoolwork.
Yeah, honestly, like it was pretty much the only thing on my mind. And it's not just music, but it was acting and performing, but music was very relevant. And I definitely spent a lot of high school playing in band, and not the school band. I only did that for like 1 year in middle school. But we played at the talent show, and I did like 5 different things in one talent show, and I actually ended up winning, not the talent show, there wasn't a competition there, but I won most talented for the senior class. So, like, I went down in the Senior Hall of Fame, whatever that means. But it's like, that to me was cool because before I had done that stuff, I wasn't really, like, social with people in the way that I was after they found out, like, I could do that kind of thing. It kind of, like, made sense to people after that. I think, like, any sort of being strange or kind of an outcast or whatever, like, once I was able to just, like, play my music in front of the entire school when I had them all listening and had their attention, like, something changed after that. And there was
more confident almost.
Well, yeah, it was like kind of like it shows you the road you're supposed to go down in life, or like it shows you like who you are as a person. Like, you know, you do things, I think, based on your instinct, number one, but it's like when you are successful in something, even if you fail, you can still pursue, but when you're successful, you really want to continue that, and I think it kind of helps guide what path you go down in life, and so that's pretty much why I always pursued it. Was just I always found great joy in it, and people were always very receptive of it, and, you know, it's one of those things that made the glass half full instead of half empty, so.
Okay. Little cut insert right there. As soon as you ended that statement, because I'm about to ask the next question.
Okay.
Shut that furnace off. Steady furnace blow. Forgot to shut that off.
What does that ruin things?
Just makes a big humming. So if there's like every space, there's like a in the back.
You just want to restart it, like.
Well, no, it just started. You're good. That little. It only happened for like 10 seconds at the end of what you were talking, gotcha. And as soon as you finished, it's just gonna be a little cut.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
So as soon as it's off, I'm just waiting for it to stop blowing. Any second, hopefully.
It's all good. Yeah, I can kind of go on rants or rabbit holes sometimes when I start to, because it's like my imagination or like my memories rather just like start all firing off, and I'm like, this is why I did this and this is why I did that.
So when did you have a first paid gig? When was that?
Probably in high school.
High school?
Just like parties, that kind of thing. In high school, we did a lot of like, we did Centennial Lanes and Tinley Park. We did like some bars, because in Illinois you could play in the bars if there was a restaurant, that made it easier, but like you could play as a minor as long as you had the wristband and didn't hang out afterwards or anything like that. So we were able to play those kind of things, and we'd get paid for that stuff. And I mean, it wasn't anything worthwhile, but just I remember getting paid the first time, going, wow,
it's a cool feeling.
I'd do this for free, and like,
I just had fun. Like, you don't even got to give me this check, but thank you.
Yeah, and I wasn't even expecting it, was the thing. It just happened. The guy walked up to us after the show. He's like, you guys did good tonight, and he just held out some money. So
it's a nice feeling, though. You're getting paid for something that you're wanting to, in the future, turn into an actual full-time gig.
Yeah, almost. Well, I mean, it's always great to make a living or just be able to live your life the way you want. But it is something that I would have done for free at that time. So yeah, for sure. I mean, I still do it for free. I love doing it. It's part of my life, you know. And first time we got paid, we didn't even really make a big deal out of it. I think we all just kind of took it in, like, man, like, this is something else, you know. We don't suck. You know?
Okay. Well, you know, so how many bands has it been? And I know you've had a lot of people in the same band.
Yes.
But the band has at least changed in a couple ways a couple times. I know that.
Yeah. So I'm going to start it from my band Surface, which was like my serious band in high school. So that was from like 2010 to right after we graduated. And I would say from like 2013 to maybe to the end of the year or the very beginning of the next year, we didn't really do anything. I did solo stuff, but I got together with my brother Devin and Jeremy and then Raymond, and we were like, let's start a band, and I had a demo from Surface, and I was like, well, let's do these songs, just as a starting off point so we can establish, how we play together, and it went very, very well, and so we started that band, which we called Freak and the Ghouls.
Okay.
And we did those songs on the demo, which was 4 songs, and then we wrote like 3 or 4 more, and then we did a couple covers, and that's what we gigged doing. And then we changed our name to, what would it have been after that? Paradigm. So we changed our name to Paradigm, and we did a lot of like Camelot, bowling alley. We did other places like some theaters and some bars and stuff. And then eventually we decided to change our name because we started writing in a little bit of a different style. It was like less of a hard rock style and more of a hard rock meets kind of like theatrical or kind of like gothic romantic or something. If you could even call it that. It was something else. And there was just a need for like a change in the name and a change in the feel. So we named the band Guillotine Kids, and it got really theatrical after that. I started coming out on stage. Like our opening song was called Chain Gang, and I came out on stage in like handcuffs, like I had just broken out of jail or something like that. Not in a jumpsuit or anything, but just the handcuffs. Just like little touches like that we were adding, and it was a different thing. And then after that, we took a break, and I did a solo band, which is where you would have seen me live with Dustin and all them. And
okay, so that's where I actually came and seen you.
Yes.
Okay.
So I met Mike, the drummer of that band, through recording the EP with Paradigm. So we were recording that EP. We did it with Mike because he saw us at a show and was like, man, I gotta record you. So he did. And after we took a break, I was like, I still want to do music. And I have done acting all the while, so I was always fulfilling that side of it, but I still wanted to do music. So I knew that he was up for it, and he really, he's good. And he not only knew how to do drums and guitar, but very good with backing vocals. He knows how to record bands, so that worked out for us, and we got a band together, and we just basically did all the material that my previous band was doing. Since I had written lyrics and stuff, I kind of was like, well, this is the last thing I've had my name attached to artistically, so we'll do this. And it was cool, it was a fun time, but it wasn't like satisfying artistically. It wasn't the same. I was meant to play with those other guys, basically. So not to discredit any of them, because they're all amazing and they're all really good musicians. I met the bassist through theater. He was actually in the band in a musical I was doing, and I was like, man, you gotta come play in the band. So that lasted a little while until we were all ready to get back, and then we were a band called Steel City Hearts, and that was basically me just coming in to lead vocals of the band they were doing while I was doing my band.
Okay.
So they had recorded some stuff and they were working on new stuff, and I finished with my band and they were like, well, let's have you back. So I just did vocals on the album they were in the middle of recording, and eventually that project got stopped. Some things came up, not from any of the 4 of us, but someone else. And so we took a little break again, and this is really what I would consider like the phoenix from the ashes, because we had all this time of just like playing shows and like grinding through it and writing and creating and recording and learning how to do all that stuff and learning how to be tight on stage and together and just learning how it all went down and how it works. And we had time to reflect and really appreciate each other as creative people, as people, you know, who love what they do. I mean, every one of them are artistic, you know. Devin, he's written books, you know, he's into making swords and leather and like armor and that kind of thing, you know. So there's just a really good feeling about creating with those guys.
With who you're with now.
Yes,
this is who you're with
Tiny
now.
Castles.
This is Tiny Castles.
Which is basically the evolvement of Freaking the Ghouls, Paradigm, and Guillotine Kids and Steel City Hearts. That was all just us evolving into this. And I think all of that was totally necessary and is all great experience. I mean, it really kind of was able to shape us on how we create together separately on stage and how we execute it on stage. So the style's different now. The style is more of an indie alternative.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you, so what would you say, because you went, and when I heard you, it was more of like a rock, harder rock style, and I've listened to a couple of the songs. I listened to one you sent me, I don't think it's posted yet, and then I listened to the one that I'm going to insert here in a second, and I will say I got a real alternative vibe. Yeah. Like an alternative, the one you sent me that hasn't posted yet is kind of slower, but you still get the alternative vibe through it, and then the one that's online is super alternative, in my opinion.
Yeah, I definitely would consider it alternative, or indie is probably the word I would use. It's just its own thing, you know. We don't like boxing anything. It's however it makes you feel, you know. There are songs that are soft that I would consider heavy because they're emotionally heavy, you know what I mean?
Okay.
And it's like, I don't want to say, but if you did have to put a label, it would be indie. It's different style from what we were doing before. What we were doing before...
Oh, it's by far 1,000 times different from what...
It was aggressive, it was... Not only aggressive, but it was emotional, and it wasn't this. It comes from a more evolved, more mature place. It comes from a deeper place, I think. It comes from a more experienced place. And I think that's why it sounds the way it does, because it doesn't need all that big flash that the other stuff had. It doesn't need all the bombastic vocals or the guitar solos or the driving bass and drums. It's just, it speaks for itself, you know. It's a creation that people, I think, really can relate to because it's universal in its lyrics, but it's also, even if the lyrics aren't relevant to you, it's about how it makes you feel. And to us, it's all very personal. The songs are all very personal. It's not like one of those things where you just make up a fantasy. It's something we created that I think it's the best stuff we've done so far, honestly. I think it's better than the stuff we did before. And I love the stuff.
I personally like it better.
Yeah.
As an outsider, I listened to the stuff that you sent me, and I liked it better than what I went. I liked the music you were doing before. Yeah. And I think this fits you and your band a lot better. Before I mix up the names here, what's the one that has videoed online on YouTube right now?
Well, Tiny Castles has some video online, but I do have video from my old band, my solo band, and we have Paradigm, and just Paradigm.
I'm talking about what's the song name of the latest one before I mix it up with the other one you sent me?
Tiny Castles. Somewhere.
It's just Tiny Castles Somewhere.
Somewhere is the name of the song is Somewhere.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, before we're talking about it. Right now I'm going to go ahead and insert a small portion of this song from his YouTube channel, and also don't remember, in the link down below, the description down below, there'll be links to his YouTube channel, there'll be links to the song directly, and you guys got an Instagram as well?
Yes.
So there'll be links to that as well, which TJ will be talking about that more towards the end, but right now enjoy this section of Tiny Castles.
Let's
and then, so now that they all have heard a little bit of the section of Tiny Castles, they kind of they're seeing where you're coming from. What do you think everyone should expect off the rest of the EP when it drops?
I think people should expect to hear a cohesive piece. It's not like songs randomly plucked out of space and put onto something.
They should listen to it from start to scratch.
Yes, it's definitely something that, I'll put it this way. I've always loved when albums end and you don't take it out, you don't stop it from playing, and it just loops again, and it sounds like it could have not ended. It just it keeps going. You know what I mean? It sounds like something that
like the old album, how they all just kind of flowed, like The Wall.
Yeah,
it was. You were supposed to watch it from the start to scratch. They made a movie for you to watch it from start to scratch. Like
yeah, it's something that can start over again seamlessly. It's something that you definitely want to listen to it from start to finish, I think, because that's the way it was pieced together when all the songs were decided in the order they were going to go in, and there's an emotional flow to it, at least to us. This is to us. Now, your interpretation could be different, but I think as people who create something, you want to do something special like that, and we really wanted to create it as a piece, not as something that sounded like disjointed like it did before. You know, that's what we were going to call it, disjointed, because it was going to be one of those things where we just kind of had here and there.
Kind of threw this in and
yeah.
just kind of put that over there.
And they weren't even all the same songs. We had enough songs to do something, and eventually other songs started coming along, and we picked the best out of what we thought we had. We picked stuff that we thought would make a good album. Okay. You know, not just we only have 3 or 4 songs, we need to make an EP out of that. No, we have other songs that aren't on there. We have other songs that we might put on an EP next time, or maybe we don't, you know, or maybe we only play them live. But these ones were all picked for a reason. The songs are all special to us for sure. So it's been really an interesting process, that's for sure. It's different than how we've done it before. It's a home recording now. Everything about it's homemade. We bought new stuff specifically to make it. It was originally going to sound a little bit different, and we went ahead and bought new gear to make it sound the way it sounds. So I really just, if anything should be known, it's that thought went into it. It definitely was something.
Time, effort, yeah. Thought.
It's definitely that something. Emotion. That effort went into. Mm-hmm.
Your heart and soul. It's something that you believe means a lot.
Yeah, and it's something that, you know, if I'm gonna have anything out there, it's gotta be representative of me and us, and like something I think that's worth sharing, and it's definitely that. I think it's great. I think it's the best thing we've done so far, I think.
Well, that's great, and that's awesome to always feel that way. We're coming towards the end of this, so TJ, what I want you to do, the camera's all yours. Go ahead and speak your piece. Tell them where to go. Tell them what to look forward to, and tell them what they want to hear.
Okay, so we don't have an exact date for the EP coming out. We're waiting for it to be finished, being mastered, which is going to be any day now. I'm going to go ahead and say it's going to be before the end of the year. You can find us on Facebook, Tiny Castles, Instagram, Tiny Castles Band. We're on Spotify as The Tiny Castles. I believe the same with SoundCloud. We can provide links, but we're on a bunch of social media. After this EP's out, we would have loved to have done live shows, but having COVID in the world is making everything more complicated. So if we can do live shows, we definitely will. That's for sure going to be in the future. But we're also going to record more music. This isn't the only thing we're putting out. I don't know how many songs will be on the next one, making it an EP or an LP, but we're definitely going to put other things out. This is just the beginning. And this is basically our introduction as Tiny Castles. So I hope that you enjoy it. A lot of thought and effort went into it, and yeah.
All right, and like he said, all the links will be down below. I'll make sure to get all his links for social media and everything down below. Make sure to go check them out. Give them the love, give them the support. If you haven't today, make sure you tell somebody you love them. Hope you guys have a good one. Peace.
Peace.